Hey everyone's Classic DM. Earlier this year I released this module and it kind of went under the radar, and I wanted to cut a little quick video for you to take a look at it. I'll probably put it on sale maybe next week, drop that price down some for people who are interested in it. When we all know that Pathfinder remaster is coming later this year. And what I've been trying to do, I've been trying to build up like a library of a bunch of little one-shot adventures that are unique, that have kind of some old school AD&D feels to it. And the Scarecrow's Lament was one I started to release for last year for Halloween, but things got busy at work and we had to go around the world and all kinds of fun stuff was happening, so it got delayed. But I went back and finished it this year, and I released it for both Osric and Pathfinder. But for the Pathfinder fans on my YouTube channel, I wanted to kind of give you a sneak peek about it. So let's just give you a quick snapshot of what's inside this adventure. This adventure draws a lot of inspiration from your typical Halloween headless horseman type stuff, right? You've also got a little bit of the Village of Hamlet in here, right? And so you imagine taking like the Village of Hamlet mixed in with a little bit of a murder mystery, mixed in with something from Peaky Blinders, and some other fun things like that. So in essence, this whole adventure takes place in a small little village called the Village of Colebrook. And it's this really close-knit community that's bonded by this fundamentalist religion called the Way of the Oak in the Field. This is something I really wanted to explore with this dungeon adventure. I wanted people to be able to kind of come to this village and realize like everyone was super tight. Like all the family members have been around forever. You outsiders are coming in. They're kind of, who are you? And have a little bit of weird, dark secret behind the scenes that you'd have to use your role playing skills to truly discover. It wasn't something that you were just going to go up to someone and have the DM give you all the answers. So I really wanted the adventure to cater to the people that were really smart, a little bit more mature, and realize that something weird was up and kind of want to get involved in a murder mystery. But I also want them to have a really incredible final battle at the end. That overall experience is what drives this adventure. Now, it does give you a little bit of a village that has all these family members and these detailed descriptions of the storyline and what they know that you can work with, but that's the main theme of the whole thing. Now, how do you kick it off? Every time you got an adventure or one shot, you got to have some kind of inciting incident or something to kick things off. One of the techniques I like to use often is a family member or a distant family member that you haven't met. I've done this in order of succession as well. In this situation, a distant relative of one of the players, Mrs. McGear, has recently passed away, and she left the house and all her belongings to one of you in her will. So this would be a situation like if you had an aunt or someone that passed away you didn't really know existed, you never met them, you maybe heard their name once or twice. This way you can kind of integrate, you can pick any character at the table, especially someone who is good at role playing the character really in character, to adopt this kind of storyline element. You could have a situation where you could talk to them ahead of the game, say, hey, listen, you're going to be the player character who's going to get this house, and you have this old aunt that's passed away, right? It doesn't really change the direction of the story. Like you and your four of your friends, three of your friends, five of your friends, whatever you want to do, doesn't matter what classes or races or anything you are, or ancestries, if you want to call it. The story still works. So as the players begin arriving at this village, when there's this big celebration being set up, so it's late afternoon and they're getting everything all decorated, they got a big platform, or they're going to have this huge celebration tonight, and this whole thing anchors on this thing called the Legend of the Dark Rider, right? The Legend of the Dark Rider kind of goes like this. Many years ago, a wealthy man came to stay in a village. He presented himself as a priest from a distant city-state looking to settle in the area, but his purpose was evil and diabolical. Every autumn night when the moon was full, he would dress up in all black, covering his face with a red silk scarf beneath a tricorn hat. The priest would ride the street on a black horse, slowly patrolling one hoof after another in search of his next victim. Once chosen, he would stop and stare at darkened windows. If any children were awake and peered out, he would fly up to the window and snatch the child from their beds, never to be seen again. Richard Starling, a man of faith and courage and founder of the belief of the Way of the Oaken Field, tricked the Dark Rider by placing an effigy of straw in the window dressed as a child. When the Dark Rider came, the two battled in the fields under a full moon. Starling defeated the Dark Rider in single combat, struck him down with a strike of his holy sickle, thus removing his head, forever to be replaced by a carved pumpkin. So this dramatic kind of story, this is the legend that everyone in the town, little kids have been told this legend and kind of scare children at night. Everyone believes that. Now there's a real truth behind the scenes, which involves these two primary families, and the Starlings and the excuse me, Richard Starling is the main person that's running the whole family Way of the Oak in the Field type of storyline. His family and other families that own the village are the ones that have kind of kept a dark secret that you players can try to discover, which is really the murder of Michael McMasters. So I'm not going to read this to you and give all the tips away, but that's the thing for the players to try to discover. You know, a long time ago, when Michael McMasters actually really came to town, there were some things going wrong. Let's just give you this one tidbit here. When the retired warrior adventurer Michael Masters first arrived in the village of Colebrook over 50 years ago, he found a community sick and impoverished. Livestock were dying, fields were overfarmed without crop rotation, robbing the soil of essential nutrients, and children were suffering from illness from poor food preparation techniques and parasites. As he got to know the people, he soon realized that the local religion called the Way of the Oaken Field had so many restrictions, bad practices, and covenants. It was actually the root cause of all these basic problems. Putting his own wisdom into practice, and his knowledge of medicine, animal husbandry, agriculture, and education, McMasters systematically began solving all these problems for the community. McMasters converted many of the locals away from the religion towards a more sustainable way of life, which he said never really needed a spirit world or gods to enact it. Families flocked to McMasters and gave tithes and land to him. He used these funds and these resources to give back to the people of Colebrook with community owned crops, community owned gardens, built storage silos, and made trade connections with neighboring towns. And that sounds like a wonderful godsend, but as one might suspect, this upset the balance of power. Although the work McMasters was doing was good, it robbed the Way of the Oaken Field of finances and social control of the village. The local holy man of the religion, Richard Starling, began plotting with the elders and his eldest son, John, on a way to restore the power and get rid of McMasters. So there was a murder of Michael McMasters that happened a long time ago that's orchestrated by Richard Starling and his son John. So this religious sect can gain control, social control of the village again. Now, that's the real long-winded kind of that's the whole dirty background information. But your players, they're going to tease this out and discover it over time. So we got a Dyson Logos map here that we've heavily modified and repopulated and changed. Full credit goes to Dyson for his commercial maps. They're wonderful. We have a player version of the map that doesn't have any markings on it, and then we have the Game Masters map that has all the background notes for all the areas. And in this adventure, we do things like we include background sounds and music that you can play. This is something I've done in the Indigo Aces and some of my older adventures, where if you have a little Bluetooth speaker at the table, you can play this stuff at the table and have a little more ambience while you're actually playing the game. So this was something I've added in most of the entries in the beginning uh, of this adventure. So another thing I did, which I've done in some of the other adventures, is a thing I like. I really loved it back in the Hidden Shrine of Tomoe and some of the older adventures where they would kind of clearly mark out, like, what do you read to the players, right? And I always put these in these little light gray little areas for the East Road. So you can, if you're not a good writer or not a good storyteller, you've got some you've got some words here you can just read, and it gives you, I've had some people say, I like to do my own. That's fine. You don't have to read this stuff. You can paraphrase it in your own words. But for someone who really wants to make a story come alive, these little short couple paragraphs really help pave the way and set the scene for what your players are going to do. And then right below that, that's where, as a game master, you need to glean out all the detailed information. So we start off with arriving at this village. We have someone that we meet at the Mill Crossroads. We see that everyone's setting things up for this big celebration and a big sermon that's going to happen at midnight tonight. And from there, we start introducing all these interesting characters like Constable Reagan Fitzgerald, Molly, who owns the Molly Inn and Brew House. We can even investigate and kind of break into some of the houses, which is something people love to do in Baldur's Gate 1. The Starling has a series of farms. Each one of these families, the McIntosh family, the Starling family, they all have secrets hidden away. And when you actually arrive to the chapel, you can see all kinds of information that tells the players a little bit about what happened a long time ago, because this sect has built its following on this legend based around John Starling, the Starling family. So as you go through the adventure, eventually you get to the point where it starts turning into evening and the players have given the freedom to go explore the town. They can even go visit Mrs. McGear's house, which they have a key to, and they can find the information there that might give them some clues too. What you're doing here is you're giving the players an opportunity to have their suspicions raised and investigate what's going on in the area at their own devices, as opposed to just giving them the answer by killing something and getting a map or anything like that. Everything culminates with this midnight celebration. And here's the good thing of this kind of stuff. I think the thing about doing these midnight celebration trigger moments is it allows you to turn on the action based upon how engaged and excited your players are. So, for example, if you're running this adventure and everyone's checking around the town, they're doing things, they're trying to rob people and doing whatever they're trying to do, right? Or they about to break into houses, and if they don't find any major clues, they might become bored. So, if they start to feel like they're getting a little bit bored, you can just go, boom, hey, it's getting close to midnight now. The celebration's about to begin. Music starts playing. Everyone's gathering at the crossroads. So this gives you a way to kind of change the pacing, as opposed to being an adventure where, well, until they come to this one area, they don't get to unlock anything. When they get to the midnight celebration, this is where things get really nasty. This is where our final showdown happens. And I'm going to cut the background music here for a second so you can hear me a little better. The final showdown is all based upon the Cursed Scarecrow, which is McMasters himself. We've got him set up here. His stat block is set here. He has three special abilities, which are not in the Pathfinder rule books. So these will be situations where I've used my best judgment humanly possible to get this to work for you. It uses a lot of melee unarmed strikes, and then once you get a strike, you grab the player, you're doing continuous damage to them until you get a saving throw with a reflex to get out of it, etc. Or an area effect ability that will burn an area to keep the players away from him, that will heal him. So this gives you a chance to run a really different kind of boss than you do in the regular books. It's not like some orc warrior or something like that. The final showdown, when this cursed scarecrow arrives on the scene at the crossroads and the crowd scatters and Starling is standing there, he's going, oh shit, you know, you have all this stuff about to go down, the players are right there next to it. The players are going to get engaged in this fight no matter what. They're going to get attacked as well. So this gives you a great device to really ramp up things and attack certain types of people. Once the defeat of the Scarecrow has happened, there's a really interesting epilogue where Mrs. McGear, who isn't dead, who hasn't passed away, has been here the entire time, and she has all the clues to prove that it was McMasters that killed her love, which was a long time ago, when the Starlings had murdered him. So this will give you the truth revealed, and this is hopefully something rewarding for the players as they have either maybe found most of the clues themselves, maybe try to interview the Starling family and find out some more details. And you do have the flexibility as a game master to say, you know what, my players aren't really figuring out this murder mystery. Let me throw them a bone. You can always lift a couple of the clues that are here in the epilogue and scatter them along the storyline when the players are exploring. And lastly, another thing you can also do if players aren't real good at murder investigations and that kind of gameplay, you can create a little bit of conflict, like some fights with some of the local villagers who are pissed off at you if you start inquiring too much stuff, or talking to someone isolated away from their father or things like that. There's all kinds of interesting little tidbits you can do. But that is the bulk of this adventure. I think it's a really neat one. I ran it a lot myself. I've run it 7 times so far, and every time I've run it different. The biggest challenge that has been as a referee is some people just are so exhausted about trying to find the details. Once they realize that there's something up in this village, they're like, I want to know what's going on. They talk to everyone, they want to go everywhere. And sometimes that can be tricky for balance if you've got players who aren't really into that. So you're going to have to find ways to spice things up. In one play session, I actually had to ramp up combat a little earlier because I had two really great technical combat players becoming a little irritated with another player, two players who kept constantly breaking into all the houses and trying to steal stuff and then trying to identify things. So, but that's what it is with any kind of game table. So, hope you have fun. If you check this out on my website, I'll put it on sale for about a week. Today is D-Day, June the 6th, 2023. I'll put it on sale for a week and drop the price to dirt cheap so you can get a copy of this and check it out with your friends. And hope you have fun. And also, don't forget, with the remaster version coming, I'm going to be going in hardcore on more Pathfinder 2nd Edition videos. So hope you have fun and look forward to that too. We'll talk to you later. See you soon.